Hi, everyone. I'm coming in today to talk a little bit about cross-border payments with China. For those of you that don't have your own entity in China, but you are trading, transacting with companies in China, there is always this question and doubt as to whether you're being cheated because you're either not getting paid on time or there's always questions coming about who's liable for the taxes in China and whatnot. So I thought I would just pop in and very briefly explain how the process works. So if you are an overseas company and you are trading or transacting with a company in China, you have to understand that it is an extremely bureaucratic procedure in China in order for companies to pay overseas companies. And I say that it's bureaucratic because the first thing you got to do is register your contract agreement with the tax bureau. And that step alone can take a minimum of 2, if not more, 2 to 3 weeks. In some instances, during the peak tax season, you'll find that it takes up to 6 to 8 weeks just to get that agreement approved, which means that no payments can be made until that agreement has actually been verified by the tax bureau. Then each time an invoice is raised by you wanting the Chinese company to pay, the Chinese company has to take that invoice to the tax bureau, pay the necessary taxes, which will depend on the form of transaction. It will also depend on the VAT status of that Chinese company, where then they will pay the taxes based on that invoice up front. Once they've done that declaration and tax payment has been made, they can then go on to the bank, who will again require a series of documents in order to then approve the outbound payment to you. So it is an extremely bureaucratic procedure. It is very intense, labor intensive, which is why you might find that Chinese companies take their time. One, they don't have a choice. In other instances, they might say we only do these types of transactions once a month because it is so labor intensive. So you have to wait until they start that application. Or you might find that they don't have the right documents on hand, which is why it's also very critical that you've got contracts in place, agreements in place, proper invoices in place, so that it makes it easier for the Chinese counterpart to actually go to the bank and the tax bureau to get these applications done. In addition to all that, do make sure about the tax status. In many instances, the Chinese companies will say that you're liable and they will deduct the taxes from the actual amount that you're going to receive. So as a tip, my recommendation would be, and this is my first tip for today, would be to ultimately make sure that in the service agreement or contract, you state that all taxes and liabilities should be paid by the Chinese counterparts and that you want to receive the net service fee, the net amount that you are charging, and that you don't care what liabilities they might have. Because it's always difficult to calculate the necessary taxes. It really does depend on their tax status in China. The other tip I will offer you to also speed up the process is to consider opening up a renminbi account in China, a renminbi account overseas. Now, the reason why I say that is because there is a lack of Forex in China. And as a consequence, you also, depending on the value of that invoice, have to apply for the Forex and do the conversion from renminbi into whichever currency you have invoiced in, which might be US dollar, pound, sterling, euro, Hong Kong dollar. And so you have to be aware of that. To make life easy, if you invoice in renminbi, then you will receive renminbi into a renminbi account in the UK, in the US, or wherever. And it's getting much, much easier to open such accounts overseas. So do think about that to improve the efficiency of your transactions in China. And also to think about taking control over the currency exchanges. So that is the process for the cross-border payments, especially when you're transacting with a Chinese company who owes you money. Now, obviously, if a Chinese company is receiving foreign currency, is receiving payments for services rendered or from trade transactions, then it is also a very similar process in that the money goes into an escrow account and the Chinese company has to actually show proof of transaction in the form of agreements, invoices, etc., in order to release the funds from that escrow account into their bank account. Now, during the pandemic, this was a huge issue because nobody was actually working in the banks during the Shanghai lockdowns. And so all of these cross-border payments were halted due to the fact of these bureaucratic steps and procedures. So I want people to be aware of that and realize this issue. And if you've got any questions about cross-border payments with China, or you want more explanation regarding your own case right now, then reach out to me. I'll be providing you with our email address, also at our inquiry page, and I'd be happy to have a conversation with you. Hope this video has helped. Take care, have a wonderful day, and goodbye.